We're live with, you guys all know us. We're the Karl, and it's time for a Karl circle jerk because we haven't done this yet. So here we go.
You guys have been waiting all year, guys. You knew it was gonna come. You knew it was gonna be in the semifinals when three of us were gonna still be alive. So here it is, everybody. We're ready. You guys missed the action, so you guys get the aftermath of the circle jerk.
Yeah, lotion is ready just in case.
For those on podcast, Casey just showed some lotion. So
we might go for round two here by the time we wrap this thing up.
So Casey, there's a viral video going around of you celebrating your win, and you say something about Njoku. What's the story there in the very beginning?
So I'm watching that, and early on, this actually wasn't even coming down to that Njoku kind of missed touchdown right before he ran it in, but he made a big play early on. It was a 15, 20-yard catch, and Yusuf sends a text like, Njoku's going to have a big game. That's an IAC type of guy. I think I've owned Njoku for a couple weeks here and there over his career. And so it was one of those where it felt like I needed one of those random Brown receivers to step up, and Yusuf threw out Njoku. I was always kind of hinging on Kareem Hunt having a big game in the passing game, but Yusuf came out real early on at quarter one, 5 minutes in, saying, I think it's going to be Njoku that has a big game for you. And it came down, and no, it's funny. Like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what? I need to record this moment because it felt so big. And with the pod, I'm like, win or lose, if this thing happens or not, like, let me get my reaction. I don't know if I would have ever texted that thing if he would have thrown a pick in the end zone, but you caught it in real time. And no, it was it. I mean, it was right after that Njoku catch.
I even liked your angle of the phone.
Yeah, I know.
Man.
You know me, I was pacing the
zone. I'm surprised you were able to hold on to your phone. I'm surprised you didn't have Bray like recording you or something.
I mean, it's basically the rantings of a madman. If I ever need to explain to somebody the SPFL and the Karl, then I will just show them that video and be like, this is it right here.
Well, Ian experienced it to an extent with the Aaron Jones touchdown the week before. So it was similar kind of reaction to that. The funny thing about the Aaron Jones is I didn't see it coming. There was no buildup. At the 77-yard whammy, you don't see coming. But, that Baker play, he's down there at the 5-yard line. And I'm talking to the Sadies and Jeffrey and Rob leading up to that. And I had done the math. They were at the 5-yard line. I'm not assuming that he's going to run that thing in. I'm assuming it's going to be a throw. But he needed 4 yards to be able to give me the point. If he threw a 3-yard touchdown pass, I'm still down 1. And so it was one of those where it's like, this needs to be the throw, because if they run it with Chubb, get it into the 1 or 2 yard line, even if Baker gets a touchdown, I wasn't going to get that extra point.
Which you were getting screwed all game with that Chubb run.
Oh, it was 3 rushing touch. Baker didn't have a touchdown to the 4th quarter. I mean,
Well, that's why it was like super icing on the cake for Baker to run it in, because this is the guy that cost me a parlay by not even getting 7 yards rushing.
That's
here he is, like, taking IAC to the Final Four.
He got me 10 points on rushing stats with his yards and touchdown. I don't think he's gotten 10 points rushing all season.
Wasn't that bit more like Baker year 1, where he saw the run available and would go for it?
Yeah, I always thought that he's athletic, but no, then we were even early on in that game, there were times where he would like look to run. It looked like it was going to be a 9-10 yard scramble, and it was like 2 yards. And I think we were joking early on, like, why does Baker look so slow? Like, he gets the crease and then he gets caught by a defensive lineman. So it was crazy because you saw it open up because you knew he looked to pass. And there was nothing there. His first and second read were gone. And I just remember the moment like, holy shit, guys, he's running. And you knew nobody was there. And it was crazy. But what's funny is, I mean, if you would have told me at that point, like 3 more touchdowns were going to be scored in that game. I mean, I felt like that was it. And then we were like, holy shit, if he takes a couple knees. And like Yusuf talks about it, he lost a parlay bet because he takes a knee. Baker's one of those guys that like drops back 3 yards and takes a knee. He doesn't just go straight down. So I'm like, if he takes 2 knees, I'm going to lose a point, and I'm going to lose this thing. So, but
well,
yeah,
even what always caught me too is like, the Hail Mary Baker throw at the very end that can turn into an INT. I mean, there was still ways, once it was like 248 to 248, I was like, okay, something funky is gonna happen probably.
well, and I was talking to Ian earlier where it was like, okay, the Ravens got the ball. That was during the the Lamar shit fiasco, and I'm thinking, I don't want the Browns to get the ball back. Like, let's
No,
let
no,
the Ravens
exactly.
just run this all the way out. Like, I
Yeah.
did not. And then, so then I'm like, okay, let them just run it down, get a field goal at the buzzer, and if they lose it, they lose it. But I didn't want Baker getting the ball back. Well, then he gets that touchdown to Hollywood, and I'm like, oh, now Baker's got to force some throws. Like, this is not good. Like, he's got a minute and a half, and he needs to go the length of the field. Now, he was rolling, and he looked good, but still, all it was going to take was one. And then I remember Yusuf saying the very first throw was like a 50-50 toss down the sideline to Peoples-Jones. And I'm
he had no business throwing that pass.
Well, because even at that point, like, I needed, I think, 26 yards and 2 completions to get up 3 to where even a pick would have saved me. So I'm like, just take a couple easy ones, dump it off to Kareem Hunt, get me my 30 yards, and let's call this good. He throws a 30-yard chuck down to Peoples-Jones that was like just as likely that thing was going to get picked off.
Peoples-Jones needs some more respect on his name, that's for sure.
You know what? If I didn't get Higgins, I was going to have Peoples-Jones just because I kind of wanted that stack this week with Baker. So, no, it came down to that Baker game, which is crazy. I mean, Baker was one of those guys that I wore the jersey at the draft for. I was high on him to an extent. I knew with the new coach there, the new regime, everything was going to take a little bit of time for it to click. Like, with no training camp or anything like that, Baker wasn't going to come out the gates on fire. And then he had that stretch in the middle where he just had bad weather. So, his numbers weren't there, but he's playing well right now. And if he can keep that rolling.
Casey, do you think he's turned the corner? Like, was it really just like Freddie Kitchens last year and then this year getting used to new coaching? Like, is Baker going to be a Karl fixture?
Yeah, I mean, if he was a decent keeper, I would look to bring him back. He moves up to a 3 right now, which is just a little bit too high for him. He'd really have to end strong. Maybe they win the Super Bowl, and I get the Super Bowl comp pick out of Baker winning the MVP.
Okay, now you're going too far.
Then I might do it.
This is what led him to like years of not making the playoffs. Is this Baker belief? But yeah, I swear that game wasn't just a 4-day buildup. That was a 4-month buildup. That was to justify the Baker keep. That was that was to all what he does all season with his waivers and why. And then like opponent wise, I mean between Moose and AJ, those were probably the top 2 where he like nemesis wise.
Well, and especially Musa, because Musa will give Casey so much shit about Baker. So for it to come down to Baker, and for all the shit that, we and the Karl give the rest of the league, it's not as impressive as all the championships and all that stuff goes. It goes to the three of the owners that like sit there and obsess about red zone and sit there and will obsess about a Jets-Browns game and a point scored. I mean, that's what makes the Karl. The Karl is, it's not that we're more knowledgeable or we have access to more information or those are true. Like we win titles in the Karl or 3 of us do. And I don't, but it's the fact that you have an owner that's willing to ruin his whole week based on a game. Like if Baker puts up a 36 or a 35 in case he loses that game, like he's not doing any more podcasts the rest of the year. The phone's getting thrown into the TV, and that to me is just sort of what makes the Karl special. Is you have owners of me and Casey have known each other for 25, 30 years. We've been doing fantasy football for 20 years, and we live and die on every play. And that's what makes it so crazy when it comes down to a playoff win and your guy, your keeper, is able to do that in the final seconds against one of your good friends that you've been talking shit with. So we'll see if that continues in a week 15 in the semis and that stuff.
On that same note, and people probably don't see it, but they don't know the Karl goes at each other too. Like my title runs, Casey was on my ass. Like I've never like Rob would have to throw the white flag peace signs. Like, hey, let's take it easy, guys.
Well,
And I was like, no. I was like, let him keep going because I'm gonna take this 4-17. We're gonna win 3 in a row. We're gonna make the playoffs, and we're gonna go to the title game.
well,
Casey
that's
would go silent in the off season, man. He couldn't pray to go faster to NBA.
That's the beauty of the Carl. I'll say all along, the best rivalry in the SKFL is the happy IAC rivalry. Like, even
When
though
it's
they're in the
going.
same division, when it's going, like,
Yeah.
that is the game. Like, when those guys play each other twice a year, like, that's the game that, if
we're
I ever
talking-
thought a friendship was going to get lost over the course of an SKFL week, it's between that game.
I'll tell you one thing. I would love to see Casey's waivers the week after we play each other because I bet you they're like on point. Like who I'm getting, he's probably got the same list down, and it's mostly just cock blocking too. It has nothing to do with whether he wants to play the guy.
I just don't want Yusuf to play him
correct.
against me.
Like you picked up 5 defenses against me.
Yeah,
just throw them away. You know?
Well, the thing, and I know Yusuf has said this. I mean, we actually build on each other. I mean, the funny thing about the Yusuf Casey rivalry, it's one of those almost like UW and Oregon where, when I'm up, it's always been when Yusuf's down. It always feels like the other one is playing well when the other is not.
True,
and
good point.
we've never really peaked around the same time.
No.
Yusuf always says it. Yusuf stepped his game up in fantasy because of the Karl, and that's the advantage. We always
iron sharpens iron.
We always say the disadvantage is we got 3 tough games out the gate, and we got 3 tough games at the end of the year. But what it does is it forces you to just step your game up. And I remember Yusuf saying, like, if I'm going to compete in this league, in this division, I got to figure some stuff out. And you change your philosophy. And, Pinella's talking about overall points scored. And for us, overall points scored doesn't matter. Like, we're trying to beat each other. And a lot of times it's not points on a given week. It's just how am I going to beat Yusuf or how am I going to beat Ian? And, sometimes you don't have to throw up a 300. You just got to find a way to get to 225. And
it's that Pacific Northwest title.
Yeah. 10 straight champions. We got 3 teams still alive in the Final Four. There's been one year in SKFL history when Karl, one of the 4 of us, hasn't been in the championship. I mean, it just the resume speaks for itself, and so we just got to shoot this Pinella talk down.
Is this the last year of the Karl?
Yusuf, you need to find a way to win this toilet bowl. Is all I'm saying right now, man.
Yes.
If you win this toilet bowl, Karl wins the championship. Then
you get all 4 owners. The goal of the Karl every year is to get all 4 in. And if you can't get, I think we did that in 17, or it might have been 2016. But if you can't get all 4 in, then you just gotta make sure that all 4 are playing week 16.
Yeah, it is. It is nice that we're all 4 on schedule. I'll tell you this though, this just goes to show what kind of year I'm having. All year I can't find a quarterback for nothing. This week I have 5 quarterbacks and I got no receivers or running backs.
Yeah, I know.
So and I think we're frozen on free agents right now. So it's all right, I got to go pray to Summer of Sam to play a worthless game, but we'll see.
Saturday night.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to move on to I want to hear about Ian's kind of what he felt about his matchup with Randy, just to kind of close it up because it all came down to Baker. For me, I felt confident going in with that Rams number. Even early on, if you go back to my matchup with Musa, I got everything I needed really early, like Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Thielen. That was that big Tampa Bay Viking game. They didn't do shit. And Amari Cooper didn't do anything in the second half.
Casey, what were you expecting from his Washington D? Because I dropped them the week before. I didn't expect them. San Francisco, I thought was a pretty decent offensive team. And I figured at most Washington would get about 20 points.
Yeah, 25 is kind of the number. 40. Yeah. There was a moment in that game, and I was with Jeffrey, where Miles Sanders whammied and Chase Young, not the whammy pick, but it was the Chase Young fumble to the house, happened within 3 minutes of real time. Oh. And he put up 40 like that. And that's when I got worried, really. That was the moment. And then, so then it's okay, I just need the Niners to chop this defense. And what does he get? He gets a pick six whammy.
Yeah.
Another 15 points. So with Baker, I was always just trying to keep it under 30. I'm like, if I can get a 20, if I'm down 29 with Baker, I'll feel pretty good. When that thing got to 36, I was worried. And, Musa was giving me shit with the Devontae Parker 0 off the bat. But, I think I've said this. Aaron Jones' 14 was my biggest disappointment. I mean, Ian mentioned it on the pod last week. Like, he was in a smash spot against the Lions. I was banking on 30 to 40 minimum. So, well, I mean, that's where I was tilting and that was the afternoon games. When Musa was making his run, I'm like, okay, if I can get Aaron Jones to get rolling here, I'm going to be able to chop this thing down, and he just never got hot. So, yeah, it's always fun when it comes down to a Monday nighter.
Oof.
Ian, like,
it woke up Rob from his sleep, so I'm glad for that.
Yeah, exactly. For Ian's matchup, I always felt like it was the Alex Smith. Like when you saw him walk into the locker room, I mean, we talked about Cam Newton's bench for the 8, and it's like, if you would have told me that Alex Smith was going to get a 1, I mean,
Well, here's the thing: if you tell me that Jalen Hurts is going to put up almost a 40, put up 39, and then Kamara is going to rise from the dead and give you a 31. McKissick scores 18, outscoring both of my running backs. And then Tyreek Hill would run for a 32-yard touchdown. And A.J. Brown, what did he put up?
He had a touchdown early, right?
Yeah, he did.
What did I see? A.J. Brown puts up a 35. Okay, so if you told me all this, I don't see a way that I could win that game. Right?
I know.
Especially when Tyreek Hill ran in the ball, I got freaked out. And I don't track scores while I'm watching games. So when I finally looked at the score at probably about 3:30 or so, I was tied. We were tied at 175, 175. I was super surprised because my feeling on it was like, this is not going well at all for me.
Exactly. It just shows the power of Ian's team, though, too. It's
Mark Andrews had a big catch in that Ravens game, too. I mean, because Mark Andrews was kind of falling off a little. Did you?
He had some big catches.
Oh,
he
the
also
double tight end start. Okay, there it is.
48-yarder.
Let Ian begin the double tight end Final Four start. But yeah, Andrews got alive a little there, and I don't know. You couldn't have asked for a better guy to be on your Monday night was Lamar. Just because you knew okay, if you needed the points, he's gonna it's a lot easier for him to get the points than let's say the Baker was for Casey.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Well,
and with Andrews there.
I said it on the pod where the big game for Ian was the Redskin Niner game because Ian had the Niners D and Randy had McKissick and Alex Smith. And I mean, the Niners D outscored both those guys.
Niners D came through. D came through.
And
yeah, so that was the right call. That was a good call.
And that goes to show you, just side note with, some of these guys that they're really not prepping their 14, 15, 16 week with their defenses. Off the top of my head, who was Carolina playing?
The Broncos.
Las Vegas. Okay. No, Carolina played Las Vegas, right?
No, it was the Broncos.
No, Denver.
Remember he went against
did they?
Okay. Lock thing.
So Jeezy was cooking a little that game. I remember that. Yeah, he got caught up in that. See, and that's a damn shame because he played the right card. That was the right definitely. D to play.
I liked the defensive call, and he lost by 25 points at the D.
Yep.
Yeah, Carolina got him a 5, and his backup Houston was a -4. So either way, that was a lose-lose situation.
Yep. Yeah, and honestly, you asked the question how does RDS score those many points? I mean, I think it's just the quarterbacks. When you have his quarterbacks, and actually in this case, I will say I think the fact that I think my low scorer put up a 12, and
those always help.
So here's the thing, when I was setting lineups and doing free agents, I was kind of going back and forth, do I need to shoot for the moon here with a Jalen Guyton type?
Right.
Or do I just need to go solid? And I came down to I need to just put up a solid lineup. So that led me to put in Hawkinson, and even Chad Hansen, he was actually probably a little riskier, but the thing is he's got Deshaun Watson throwing to him.
Yeah.
So and Cook's out. So
everyone was out
at that point. So going with that safe
Schefter,
lineup,
early on, Saturday night said Cooks was going to play. Cooks was one of those weird guys that Saturday night Cooks was in, and then it was you woke up Sunday morning. Because I was tracking the Kiki news. They were both going to play, and then you woke up Sunday morning, and it was Cooks is out, Kiki's in, which definitely helps with Hansen. Because I agree. I think if Cooks is playing, Hansen's a harder start.
Yeah. Yep.
Shout out to Casey for bringing Ty back from the dead.
Casey, are you going to roll with Ty?
Against the Texans again, he kills the Texans, man. This is what I've been waiting for. He hasn't just killed him this year; he's killed him in his career. So no, Ty is gonna prove the philosophy of the wide receiver guru wrong.
Jeff
I'm telling
Taker,
you that right now.
That's your Karl curse, Jeff. You never appreciate the gifts that Karl gives you. Casey gifted you Ty.
No, Ty had 1 week for me. It was like, okay, coming off the bye, he's finally somewhat healthy. We'll give him a shot on the roster, and I think he caught one ball or whatever. So I think Casey made a claim in week 13, like if Ty put up he benched him and he put up like a 35, and he said he'd play him the rest of the postseason. So I think he's sticking to that.
Casey's a big second chance guy. I've noticed guys that get dropped around the league, he's the guy that you come to IAC, you're gonna get a shot.
Well, I've always been one of those where if I'm high on a guy early on in the season, there's a reason I am. And sometimes even if they kind of falter, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I was high on them because they're going to get hot in December. So Ty is one of those guys. Higgins is another one. So I'm rolling with a lot of guys that, I've owned this year. I mean, I'm still trying to decide who I'm starting at the receiver spot. My receiving, group right now is just a shit show. I've got nobody that I'm planning on starting that was not on the waivers at one point this year. So
the wide receiver guru. I can't wait to see how this turns out.
That's the big match. I mean, that's definitely what I'm looking at, is because AJ's got some scary receivers. I mean, everybody's talking about Justin Jefferson, but man, Ayuk is on absolute fire right
16
now.
targets last week.
Well,
wow.
Yeah, I talked about the Shanahan receiver one is always that guy you want, and you take away Kittle, you take away Deebo Samuel, and it's like, okay, the only guy left there is Ayuk. So they're going to run plays that are just designed for him. And yeah, I mean, I think Jeffrey showed me something. He's like receiver 3
by average, yes. Since week 7, he missed a couple games, so he's been in and out of the lineup. But if you filter it by average, since week 7, he's wide receiver 3 because he's in the SKFL. He's not been lower than a 27, but he has a couple of missed games there. So I think he's only played six of the games, but yeah, he's automatic. But again, then you're putting your hopes and faith in Nick Mullins, and that can be a scary proposition. But there's no doubt that those receivers on AJ's team are going to keep Casey up at night the next couple of nights for sure. And AJ's got some tough starts. He's got to make some decisions on DeAndre Swift and Terry McLaurin, like what he does with Dwayne Haskins and that stuff. So be an interesting Sunday lineup for sure.
Yeah, I'm interested in Terry McLaurin because, I mean, I would start him here. Like, you have to.
I think you have to. Yeah.
And with, Haskins does throw to him more, so I think this is a good thing.
I think one thing that AJ might get caught up in, and I don't blame him for this, but I don't like Fournette in the lineup. I'm not a fan. I feel like the healthy scratch was one thing. I just feel like they're not. I mean, they haven't really been too good with the run game to begin with, even with Rojo back there.
Yeah,
but I don't see the love going to Fournette this week.
It's got to be just that Falcon matchup. But yeah, I know.
I'd be curious to go back on AJ's weeks too. It feels. I mean, especially now that he's hitting on those running backs, it feels like he either puts up a 280 and those running backs because he has some plus matchups for sure. This Seattle defense, if he pivots to the Pats defense, Cam Akers against the Jets, McLaurin against the Seahawks. He has some really, really boom potential, but he also has some bust potential with that same play. Like if Haskins can't get first downs, then McLaurin doesn't move. If Swift doesn't catch balls from Chase Daniel, then he, potentially Goff gets the touchdowns against the Jets. So
Take a shot of the Baker whiskey.
Cousins Jefferson has a tough matchup too, so it'll be interesting. And Casey just doesn't know what he's going to get from those running backs when you always play the Jones, Mostert, and it was Clyde. You just don't know what those guys are going to do. They could go anywhere between a 12 to a 35. So
that's what sucks. Like those were supposed to be concrete. Like Jones, Mostert, and Edwards were super concrete to start off the year, and now it's like mostly he's like been hitting with these waiver wide receivers that have been having to come through, or else he's not going this far.
Yeah, no, running back was my strength 2 months ago, and it's a shit show right now. Clyde looked really good last week. You know, that was the week after he sat out. So I liked to see his snap count, target share. He was catching some balls, which, I mean, that was one of my misses, as I thought he was going to catch a ton this year. And not just because of Mahomes checking down. I thought they would design some pass plays to him, because that's what he did in college. And that's everything that, you know, I'd looked into was this guy can catch. And I went back to Kareem Hunt's rookie year with the Chiefs, and I thought, okay, this is how Andy Reid's going to use him. I went to the Brian Westbrook philosophy of like, okay, when Andy Reid has a running back that can catch, this guy catches 6 balls a game. And they haven't used that or incorporated that part of their offense at all this year. So I'm hoping maybe they're just saving it late, waiting for the postseason to kind of unleash it. But yeah, I need Aaron Jones to save me from last week. He's got to be my big gun. I mean, he's my best player on my roster right now. So I definitely need Aaron Jones on Saturday night in a good matchup again against Carolina. I feel like he's got to step up. Clyde's just got to kind of do what he did last week, maybe get a touchdown. And then Mostert, you know, he's been bumming me out just because he's splitting carries. But he's always a whammy away, which is hard not to start. But I love the Dallas matchup. I mean, I just absolutely love the Dallas matchup. So
it's a beautiful matchup. There's going to be a lot of running in that Dallas game.
It's a tricky thing, these playoff weeks, just because you got to remember these coaches and head coaches out there, they're like, I'm saving these guys' legs for the real playoffs in NFL. So your studs, like you said, Mostert, or I mean, not Mostert necessarily, but like Aaron Jones or who else. Like I remember I had last year or 2 years ago, I had Henry and I had, you know,
Gurley and Zeke.
And they just got sacked. And I was like, bullshit. I
against Indianapolis.
Yeah, I built that roster for that. Like, and then there you go. Like, there's nothing really you can do other than, like you said, like sometimes you just got to go to the waiver wire and say, okay, you know what, I'm going to get this week's hottest edition and plug him in. But it's a hard sit. Like you said, you're looking at your lineup and you're looking at your bench, and like now you got to play that game.
Well, yeah, and you know, you look at AJ's team, and Jeffrey mentioned Swift. Swift's scary because, you know, when they unleash Swift, he has shown that he can be a stud. But if Stafford's not there, how bad does that offense look?
Right.
And so, but not Colt McCoy, but Chase Daniel, I think he checks down on like 20% of his dropbacks. So it plays into Swift. I'm more worried about Swift than Akers. Even after Akers coming off, you know, one of the best running back performances of the year.
And against the Jets, like that game looks like a eat fest.
Yeah, and I'll go into it a little bit when we talk about Jeffries, but like I have a feeling that Jet game for McVay is okay, we're getting to the postseason, let's get Goff hot. And I feel like if you look at most Jet games, I mean, even Russell Wilson threw for 4 touchdowns against those guys. It wasn't really Carson. It wasn't really the running game. And you can go back and look at those Jet games. It's not a ton of running backs. It's the quarterbacks that are getting hot. So I actually like Goff. Just, you know, McVay saying, you know what? Last week was Akers. We need to get Goff some confidence. Let's dial up some easy plays to Woods and Cooper Kupp. And, you know, Akers is going to be a problem. Akers is going to get his carries and his rushes. But I think it's going to be one of those games where McVay and Goff get rolling in the passing game. And that's kind of what I'm banking on. You know, Akers, as good as his game was, 175 yards, he didn't really catch and he didn't get in the end zone. He only put up a 40, which a 40 is an amazing number. But when you run for 170 yards, like that's a 50-60 type of game that you're expecting.
It's a disappointing 40, that's for sure.
Definitely.
Yep.
So no, yeah. I mean, I want your guys' 3 opinions. Like, call the game. Who you think's gonna win? We'll move on to Ian's after that. But yeah, we've kind of talked about all the players. The Kiki and Watson thing is big. You know, whenever you have a receiver against your opponent's quarterback, it really just comes down to, okay, well, that receiver needs to be featured. And I think that's one of the 2 or 3 key guys in this matchup. I feel like Kiki's got to do what he did against the Colts, which, you know, he put up a 40 against the Colts 2 weeks ago. If he does that again, I feel great.
So I'll go first. Pull wise, I hate to admit it, but I did select AJ. I'm looking. The reason why it always comes down to me is like he just needs less hits than you.
Yeah.
I mean, Kyler's gotta go back to old Kyler. I mean,
100%.
it's Baker. I'm okay with Baker getting like a 30, which I think he's gonna get more. I think because Baker's now got the juice a little. I think he's loving the Higgins, the Jones, and all that. Your running backs, you had the down week, so you know what goes down should come up. So like that should be a plus. It's gonna be your receivers, and it's just a matter of like, can Ty still do that?
He's got to do it one more week for me, but
Yeah, I love the Higgins Baker combo.
Yeah.
And then Keek, I mean, there's no other receivers really, right? Left for Houston. So and then he's got Watson. So it just makes sense to start the receiver that your opponent's quarterback's gonna throw to. So
Yeah.
with AJ, I just feel like he can almost like he could turn off red zone and be like, all right, I'll wake up the next day and take a look, because I mean these guys it's kind of crazy. He's only going to start one QB, but it makes sense. But I mean, other than like worrying about if Fournette can do his thing, all these other guys just hit all the time.
And I think it might be a little games. I mean, I got AJ winning this pretty big. I mean, I think it would be the biggest upset in playoff history if IAC won this game. Honestly, AJ's better at every positional group except for maybe tight end. But Casey's been so bad at tight end that's a wash. I mean, if he goes Cousins, if you just take away who they're playing against or what they did last week, if you just look at AJ's quarterbacks, you'd rather have AJ's quarterbacks. If you look at the running backs, you'd rather have AJ's running backs. If you looked at receiver, you'd rather have AJ's receiver. The defense is a wash and tight end is a wash. And I think in both matchups, if there's 8 teams still playing and you took the records apart and you just showed anybody the 8 teams and you said, okay, which 2 are playing in the toilet bowl or which 2 have the worst record or the worst teams, I think you would say IAC and my team. I think with injuries and kind of just the way that the lineups look out, there's some really, really strong teams in the toilet bowl bracket. Is there a path there?
Real quick, Jeff. AJ's team is all these rookies and second-year guys that got nothing to lose.
Exactly, and they have explosive.
They're playing to be studs right now,
for sure. And so, I mean, definitely there is a path for Casey to win. I mean, I've said it all along. He won the Whammy Award. He can get some monster performances out of Kyler, out of Aaron Jones, out of Clyde, out of some of those receivers. But like Yusuf said, a lot has to go right for Casey to win that game. And AJ doesn't need that. AJ to me is kind of like how AJ just needs his guys to do what they've been doing for the last 7 weeks of the season, and he'll be fine and get the win. Whereas Casey's going to need some monsters. So I would project this game to be like 260, 220.
Which is similar to kind of what it was like going in against Musa last week. I mean, on paper,
absolutely,
Musa was the better team, and a lot of that was just the receivers. So yeah, I've said it all year with AJ and his rookies that that they when they hit they throw up 30s and 40s. I mean, that's Jefferson and Ayuk, but then you look at their down weeks and they have 9s and 10s when they don't hit, and that's just the life of a rookie in the NFL.
Yours is going to be more though. What Jeff said. I feel AJ's team is consistent enough to do the 260. You're going to have to put up another 260. That's what it's going to come up to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Your guys are just going to have to step up. But like you said, I mean, knowing you weren't going to be satisfied just making the playoffs. Getting that first playoff right with, like, how long's it been since you had a playoff with?
Yeah, no, I've been in the playoffs a couple times since the Jubilee, but I've been one and done.
Yeah,
I've made it.
exactly.
So, no.
So this
I
gave you
haven't
some
been in the
juice.
final. I
I'll
haven't
tell
been
you
in the
that.
semis since we got to the Jubilee, so
Okay.
this is uncharted for a while. But it's good to be back. But yeah, I mean, it's people will always poo-poo about winning the toilet bowl. Kind of just show when you win in December, like it gives you confidence, and it does, and you stay in the waiver wire. You know, not having a bye, you stay up on football. You know who's hot. You know who's rolling. I mean, I got the Rams against the Jets in my back pocket, and I still feel like that is. I mean, it would have broken the tie against Musa last week. Was the Rams 57, and I mean, it's impossible to ever project a 50 out of a defense, but man, if the Rams put up a 57 against the Patriots, what are they going to do against the Jets?
Right? Yeah. Knock on wood. The Jets.
One thing about like his quarterbacks too, because like Jeffrey always says, like he's got AJ's got the talent at all three of them, and I want to say no, I've got the quarterbacks. I got Kyler, like that offsets Watson. But so I looked at since Baker's gotten hot, like the last 5 weeks, I did a thing where Baker is actually quarterback number 3 in the league over the last 5 weeks, but number 4 is Watson, and number 5 is Cousins, which was crazy. I didn't realize Cousins had been as hot as he's been.
I can't believe that AJ has. Well, he has Cousins on the bench right now. He has to start.
He has
to. Crazy not to.
The Bears too.
It's a
especially with Leonard
matchup.
Fournette in the lineup, right?
He had Cousins in the starting lineup until we got the Rojo news. He put Fournette in as soon as we got the Rojo news. So we'll see what happens.
That's such a horrible move. Like, I remember the last time Cousins played the Bears. It was him and Justin Jefferson went off.
But I looked at that game because that game was actually only about a month ago. Jefferson went off, but Cousins actually had his worst game of the last 2 months. It was one of those games. It was 150 yards to Jefferson, but I've looked. He was under 300 yards. He only put up a 32 against the Bears, maybe a 33, but it was low 30s against the Bears. It was a weird game where just everything went to Jefferson, which makes me hope that the Bears made some adjustments and, kind of take away Jefferson.
You know what's interesting with AJ's team is this has been a strategy since kind of entering the league is young studs, right? Let me develop them. Let's see. And this year, it's finally
first year it really hit for him, definitely.
Yeah,
it hit in a big way. I mean, he's got. If you could have a dynasty team in the SKFL, it's Ian and AJ right now.
Oh my God! I mean, Jefferson looks like Randy Moss out there for God's sake.
Yeah, he is Randy Moss, and then he's got Ayuk, and he's got Henry Ruggs, and he's got CeeDee Lamb. I can make the case that he's got 5 of the best 10 receivers you'd want going forward for the next 8 years.
You know, and I try to suggest more keepers, people.
Which is so funny too.
We can't go there.
In a year when you didn't have training camp and you didn't have preseason, like I remember thinking, okay, our receiver's going to take a little bit longer to hit, and so it's funny that it hit in this year for AJ, which is only just to kind of give AJ a shot because I know that. He was on the pod earlier in the week, but AJ wants to be me. I mean, AJ's riding on my coattails. This
is good now. Mark the time: 38 minutes, 20 seconds. Please.
This is second year in the playoffs for AJ in like 7 or 8 of these, and all of a sudden he thinks he's like the god gift to SKFL right now. And in all honesty, like he wants to be IAC. So no,
listen. I'll give you this. You are single-handedly carrying the Karl against the NWO right now. You and if I can please give me Los in the other finals. we can bring home the belts.
We'll do a circle jerk again next week at this time.
So Ian, what's your thoughts on this match?
I think Case. It's IAC, so there's always IAC magic, but he'll need a lot of it to win. Mm-hmm. I mean, we could tell a story how it goes his way, but like you guys all said, the natural way things fall, it's going to be a tall order for Casey. I was going to say, like Justin Jefferson, just because I got burned so hard by him against the Bears, that'll be hard to contain. The big, like Casey said, big question is in the Jets game and Akers and where they go, because I'm definitely hoping it goes one way and Casey's hoping the other way. So that'll be it.
Exactly.
But I think it's more.
Chris Carson too is intriguing. I mean, Chris Carson's been playing better since he's been out there, but now all of a sudden they're saying Penny. So if we can get Pennywise, I need to get my Pennywise out here.
Pennywise.
But if Penny can start getting hot, I don't know if that's 5 or 6 carries less.
You got to be playing Scent of a Woman in the other TV screen or something. We need a
All right, so yeah, I think this one's gonna take an upset, kind of similar to how it was looking next week. I think all 3 of you guys are favoring AJ right now, so we'll see. I'll know a lot more tomorrow night.
Randy in my matchup, so
yeah, Aaron Jones needs to get me a 30 tomorrow, and he's got Noah Fant, so I need to have a pretty sizable lead coming into Sunday morning.
But you've been doing this for a while. Does it taste better with the upset win versus the favorite win?
The upset win feels great. Like,
okay,
there's nothing like it. I think when Wade posted that poll the other day about like who's more nervous when me and Musa were going back and forth, and I've always said that thing. It's like I don't like to be trying to hold on to a lead. Like chasing points, you feel confident, you want to get going, but when you're watching a guy that you're going against and you don't want him to make a catch or you don't want him to make a throw, that's just so nerve-wracking for me. So it's always, I would rather be needing my guys to step up and score me points to win it than to be trying to hope that the other way it went round where the guys. So, and that's what's going to happen. I mean, it's going to be the Sunday night game. Baker won it for me last week. We turn around 6 days later and it's Baker on Sunday night with nothing happening on Monday. So it's
wow, yeah, here we go again
against the Giants. So here we go again. I already talked Angel into if Baker does it again for me, we're renaming the dog Baker.
This poor dog's not going to know which way to turn.
I've been calling him Baker all week.
Okay, good. Oh, no. Listen, you win. That dog's like sipping some of that Baker whiskey. I don't care.
All right, no, it'll be fun. Let's go to Ian and Jeffrey because, I mean, this is a hell of a matchup. Right
wow,
now.
Okay. This was kind of like 2 trains on the same course, just meant to collide almost, right?
We're 1-1. This is the rubber match of the season. Jeff stomped me the first time. Last time, improbably, I think I came up with a win. Jeff put up 50 on Thursday night and still found a way to do it without Julio, CMC, and Lamar. So,
that's the magic of Ian this year, man. I mean, he's down 2 of his studs. He still finds ways to win. He's had some games early on this year that he shouldn't win, that he finds a way to win. It's always one of those where, he's the 2-time champ, so he was the favorite coming in. He's got Mahomes and Lamar, who arguably, in the way the SKFL works, would have been the first and second pick, with McCaffrey the third. I mean, he's got the 3 best guys in the SKFL coming into the league. So I think Jeffrey talked about it last week where, let's try and get the RDR train to end because he's the favorite. He's won 2 in a row. Let's find a way to stop that run. And we've had our opportunities. We thought it was there, but here Ian is back in the Final Four.
I've been limping through this entire year with injuries.
You've done good. You've done good limping, man.
This one hit hard, though. I mean, last week, I was down DJ Moore, CMC, and Julio, and basically I said, listen, if I can just win this game, we'll get at least one of those guys back. So we got DJ Moore. He was probably the third guy that I wanted. I was hoping CMC would be able to get back, but not there.
Ian, you and Musa handle injuries really good because you're always still. It's because I don't know if it's whether the depth's there or you're just always like you. Wayne Gallman has no business being in anybody's lineup.
He's so bad. He's such a bad running back.
But you picked him up and he's at least
on a
producing.
Bad team, a bad offense, and everything.
Yeah.
Wayne Gallman's running back number 6 for 2 months.
There you go.
Jesus.
So the big questions I have here, I definitely want to get Jeff Wilson in. I mean, I think even Mostez's questionable he's going to play.
I think he's off the injury report. Moster's off the injury report today. Completely.
Okay. So even then, I actually went and rewatched the San Francisco game last week just tonight to see what happened with the running backs. Like I want to get Jeff Wilson in, so I think there's a good chance I put him in.
Yeah, it's a good matchup. I will say Jeff Wilson doesn't look good. Like he gets carries, but he just doesn't look good.
He looked okay. He had some.
He gets stopped at the 1 yard line
good
on
ones.
every freaking goal line carry. Like I
Yeah.
don't know what
He
Shanahan's
scored a
teaching
touchdown.
that guy.
Yeah, that's
So
coming from a Mostert owner. I mean, 12 carries against the Cowboys are better than Wayne Gallman's 20 against the Browns. So it's like you want to get Wilson in the game, but it's gonna come at an expense of the double tight end thing that's worked for you. But I fully expect you to get Wilson in the game, whether that's pivoting off of Chase Edmonds or one of the tight ends.
You were this close to having a Tony Pollard start.
Oh,
I think he's still that close. I don't think it would not surprise me if Eazy-E shut down for the season at this point.
Right.
Like, why would Dallas even want to roll him out? I mean,
Tony
they want to
Pollard's
lose.
the one catching the balls, anyways.
Pollard looks like the better back since October, anyway. So
yeah. Absolutely.
That was the other game I went and rewatched today because I wanted to see how they were using Pollard. It's a 60-40 split. And, but against who they play? They're playing Cincinnati, is that right?
No, they're San Fran.
That's right. Okay, yeah. So
and San Fran's been stopping running backs is the thing. If you look back at their games, like the Bills didn't run against them, the Skins didn't run against them. It's their secondary where they're getting torched. So, but I mean, does that take Eazy-E out of the game because they're not running the football? And I don't know. But
yeah, and like I said about AJ and Casey's matchup, for me, I always said there was a path to knock Ian out early. The Wade matchup had he lost that, and then had I beat him in week 12, then that doubleheader could have been an opportunity to make Ian not make the playoffs, let alone some of those single-digit point wins that he had earlier in the season. But week 14 to me always felt like the one shot you had to knock him out. For me, he's week 16, he's got really great matchups. So I think Ian's the favorite, whoever he plays on the other side in week 16. But
because he's probably getting his guys back.
He's probably getting McCaffrey and maybe he gets Julio back, but he gets Mahomes against the Falcons. I mean, he's got some dynamite matchups. And then for me, not having Gibson hurts. I've been strengthened by my running backs. I have those three backs that can match anybody's quarterbacks or match anybody's receivers, and gave me such an advantage over every team. That's why I was able to get 10 plus wins. But not having Gibson out there, and then Eckler disappointing yesterday, really just puts me in a hole. What's killed me the two times I've played Ian is week 3 Mahomes put up a 62. In week 12, Mahomes puts up a 66. So Mahomes is averaging 64 against me. So if I could get Mahomes to only score 40, maybe there's a path to be able to beat him, because he's got questionable guys. They're scary, but Deontay Johnson drops a first quarter ball, like he's done. And
I'm freaked out of our game coming down to Monday night.
Deontay Juju.
And on Deontay.
Yeah.
And so there's some opportunity there, but the quarterback play for me has been so bad that I really needed Gibson and Kittle to kind of get healthy and get me back into it. But my receivers look like IACs. I don't really see this being great. I don't feel great about my defense. I don't know how Miami's going to look against New England. I think New England's D is going to be really strong. You give Belichick 11 days to prepare for a rookie quarterback. And the fact that they were blown out so bad by the Rams, the odds that the Patriots are going to look that bad back-to-back weeks. Now it's a low over-under, but I think the Patriots win that game. And so I
do as well.
Belichick is kind of ready to just, let's get a higher draft pick next year and punt the year. I don't know if he's there yet. The fact that the way he answered the Cam Newton Stidham questions this week or after the game last week, it made me pause a little bit on kind of where Belichick is at right now. I think he knows, similar to Yusuf, his team's not good enough to make a run. Even if they can get in as a wild card right now, they're not any good. So do we just go out there and lose games right now?
Belichick's just, I don't think, ever going to do that. He's always going to be competitive. And
I'm with Jeff. I got Pats winning this weekend.
And so, I mean, I need to flip a match. The path for me,
I appreciate the Jacoby Myers appearance, by the way. Bring him back.
he won me the game against Rob, so I got a soft spot for him. But yeah, Allen Robinson's the other guy that's killed me. I played Allen Robinson twice, and he's got high 35s in both games I played against him. So I need, and Trubisky just locks in, similar to how we were talking about Haskins locking into McLaurin. He just locks into Allen Robinson. But one good thing I saw is, I think Trubisky has played Zimmer either 4 or 5 times, and he's only thrown for 2 touchdowns against Zimmer defenses.
Zimmer shuts him down.
So he has a way of locking it. So I've been, what I'm going to need is I thought I had some, I had Ryan Ridley. I thought I had double whammy potential. They haven't popped one whammy at all. I'm going to need that Dalvin Cook, who got a tough Bears matchup. He's not very good against the Bears, but I'm going to need Cook to pop for 50, and I'm probably going to need Ridley to pop for like 40. And that,
who I think makes an appearance is, I think, Juju.
He could. I'm going to need Juju to beat DJ for sure, and then I'm going to need a couple of my guys to pop, and then a couple of his guys to bust. I hope it comes down to Lamar needing a 30 or something like that, where I could just really get behind, because you just really don't know when Lamar plays against those bad teams. And similar to how Casey was talking about McVay needing to get Goff's confidence, they're going to have to do something to get Lamar's confidence passing the ball. They're not going to be able to just run it all over. And I think if in that game too, they could just try and get Dobbins 15 carries. They could give Gus 10 carries. They could get Ingram 5. That looks like a 45 carry type game against the Jags, and I just got to make sure Lamar doesn't get the touchdowns. I can survive.
Are you not a big starter of Hollywood?
If he plays, I think, because my receivers are so bad, I think I'll flex out Bowden and put Hollywood in just to give me that insurance. I can't have Lamar throw a touchdown to Hollywood and me not have him in the game.
Right.
So I probably have. I mean, that was the whole point of keeping him.
Well, that would be Jeffrey's road is, okay, Lamar has a good game, but it's because Hollywood had a big game.
It's almost a needed at this point.
Yeah,
that's your counter.
I get the other side where it's like, okay, I don't want Hollywood to have a good game because I don't want Lamar to have a good game. But a lot of times, I did that one time back in the day with Ian where I was like, okay, I'm going to go get Wes Welker when he had Brady. And it's like, I'm going to hedge against his quarterback. Lamar's a different type of quarterback to hedge against because Lamar can kill you without throwing the football.
True.
So if it's one of those games where Lamar puts up a 40 and Hollywood puts up a 10, and now it's over. So I think if Jeffrey
it definitely does sound like an all in or not mentality.
Yeah, if Jeffrey goes Hollywood Brown, the matchup will depend on Hollywood Brown. Correct. I really think that's what it comes down to. He would just need Hollywood Brown to get all of those passing yards that Lamar's got. And what scares you with COVID is, those guys aren't practicing. He might be healthy. He might come off the COVID list, but he hasn't been at practice all week. So now how much of the game? I remember one time almost going Hardman in a week when Hardman was on COVID, and he went out there and he played 14 snaps because he wasn't at practice. So he didn't know the game plan. So that's the risk. But I get it. Hollywood's been Jeffrey's guy. He's a whammy away where he catches one big ball. Based on last week, Hollywood didn't do well, but he got that big one at the end to where Jeffrey would have taken that in a heartbeat.
And it's brutal because he was good to start the season, and then he just had such a spell after the bye where he was unplayable for 5 weeks. And he's got a touchdown, I think, in 4 straight games. Yeah, and he still feels unplayable because of the drop thing. So it's just, and then if he's not practicing, it's leave it to Lamar.
It looks like they're trying to get him involved. They're targeting him early, and if he can just kind of put it together. You'd be
I think even Harbaugh's knowing this Lamar running game, that's nice and all, and you can still get your 100 with that, but you're gonna have to start passing. Maybe maybe show some love to J.K. Dobbins while you're at it.
Well, and I think now the Ravens learned so much from that playoff loss to the Titans last year that they realize, okay, if we get into the postseason, we've got to be able to do stuff a little bit differently because teams know how to play us. And we've seen it a little bit this year. So they need to get Lamar rolling. And
Yeah,
This
I could see it.
But I mean, that being said, the Jags, it's one of those matchups that on paper, yeah, looks great. You're going against the Jags D, but do they get up big? And now do they run with their three-headed monster running backfield and just play that game? So as good of his matchup looks, Lamar has a path of only putting up a 30 or a 35 because, they get up big. Gus Edwards and Dobbins runs in touchdowns early. They're going to limit Lamar running the game because
he gets diarrhea again and has to miss 6 drives.
5 minutes a game. Yeah.
and they're up. Yeah, they're up 21. I mean, I think that's the thing. I think what Jeffrey needs is the Ravens to get up 21-0 with 2 of those touchdowns being, Gus Edwards and Dobbins. And now all of a sudden they kind of just rein back on the offense a little bit. Mahomes is going against, and I've got some notes, so I'll just jump in right now. Mahomes is going against the Saints D, which is a tough matchup, but Mahomes is matchup proof. So I don't even really know if that's good or bad. Sometimes you just want Mahomes to be in a sloppy game where he doesn't even really have to throw that much. I think against the Saints, he might put on a show, but like Jeffrey said, he's been scoring 60s against him. You're just hoping for a 40.
If he puts up a 45, it feels like a win.
Yeah, I know. If running back for Ian's been funny because it was always McCaffrey and then just try and catch a lotto ticket. He had all these backups that, if an injury happened and, Gallman got hot for a while. The thing with Gallman, I'm worried about him against the Browns D, even though the Browns kind of gave up a lot of yards to the Ravens. But I just don't trust without Daniel Jones out there, like the Colt McCoy offense. Even though against the Hawks, he still had a good game with Colt McCoy. It's hard to really get behind Gallman. I'm still not there, even as good as he's been. Jeff Wilson feels like his second best running back. So I do agree. I think that has to be the play there. The double tight end is going to be hard to go against. I mean, those guys have been locked in at 20. Hawkinson has been a 20 3 straight weeks. I mean, nobody's really talking about Hawkinson. Now, if Matt Stafford's out, that changes things a little bit. And I think Stafford's going to be out. But Hawkinson has been as hot as anybody over the last month. And we've always said Ian's team is at its best when Mark Andrews is rolling. And Andrews got hot late in that game. He's been out a week or two because of COVID. So, he's totally back up to full speed. So, I always kind of poo-poo the double tight end, but when you got a guy like Hawkinson and Andrew that can both put up a 20, it's hard to bench that guy when you look at what Ian could go with. It's either Hansen or it's either Pollard or it's either – I don't think Chase Edmonds is probably going to play. I don't think you can go the Chase Edmonds route right now. So I think it probably is the double tight end. But then that backs into, okay, what's Lamar going to have to throw against the Jags? And is that going to be needed? And is Andrews going to be a play? And as much as we talked about Hollywood being the Lamar factor, if Jeffrey goes Hollywood and it becomes a Mark Andrews 2 touchdown game, there's no shot. I mean, it's game over essentially at that point.
So my 2 cents real quick based on the poll, I'm actually flipping. I picked Ian. But you know what? I'm actually thinking Jeff is going to be able to pull this off.
Okay. I like it. I need some happy. Send your magic over my way. Trade me let me get Saquon and
I got some guys to drop for you for our bye week. But I'm looking, and you know what? I'm trying to think. What caught my eye was I was just like, okay, you know what? Eckler, he somehow pulled out a 20. But I'm loving the Ridley and Juju. I really think they're gonna blow up this weekend. And then if you go back to Casey's quarterback, for golf, I think there's another 40 or 50. So that should match up with Mahomes. So Matt Ryan, he has to keep up with Brady, right? So then he's throwing up points.
Couple things that worry me, just quick. I mean, we've already gone an hour. Nobody's listening anymore. But I had all my guys got touchdowns last week. So Juju got a touchdown. Ridley got a touchdown. Hollywood got a touchdown.
You hate that on the bye week.
On the bye, wasted.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, a lot of Ian's guys hit too. So, there's a chance if I can I need one of Ian's guys to just put up a dud. If Eckler can be my worst running back and beat his 2 running backs, I'll be okay. I mean, Dalvin Cook's got to knock out one of his quarterbacks. Ridley's got to be the highest scoring receiver in the game.
I think it's going to come down for you. Honestly, I think it's going to come down to your flex. And that's why, like, I'm just looking at Hollywood, and I don't know. It's just he's just shining right now. Like
he's red. I mean, Hollywood, like, in a week get with like the whole NWO thing. I need Hollywood. I kept Hollywood. I kept Hollywood over Kyler Murray. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Like, really, I kept Hollywood and Juju over Kyler Murray. Like, if I had Kyler Murray in the lineup right now, I'd feel really good. One, I mean, I'd be in the same position because I would have probably been 14-0, but I would have had the bye.
And you could have drafted Hollywood.
Yeah. And so it's just one of those things where I've had a dry spell on whammies. I need a big play, and I can root against one of Ian's guys to kind of
either way. I do like I mean, Casey, what do you see
on Jeffrey's side? It's going to be Matt Ryan and Ridley. I mean, that has to hit. Without Julio there, the funny thing about Jeffrey and Ian is you got Ridley, Julio, you got Deontay, Juju. It's
right,
like the
yeah.
two best receivers are usually opposite of each other. Now, Julio's out. The problem is Matt Ryan sucks without Julio. So it's like you look at Matt Ryan's numbers without Julio Jones, and it's like he's not even getting 30s. When I looked at those quarterbacks in my matchup with AJ, where Baker's at 3 over the last 5 weeks, and Watson and Cousins are 4 and 5, Matt Ryan and Goff are at like 20 and 23. They're low-end quarterback twos. You don't realize how bad Goff and Matt Ryan have been over the last 4 or 5 weeks. So he needs the Matt Ryan game to hit, and it's hard to do that without Julio. If he can get Matt Ryan and Ridley to throw up, 40s, 50s together, I think that's Jeffrey's path. It's his best path. The Eckler injured game where he only scored a 19 was just such a blow. I think me and Jeffrey were talking yesterday where it was like, okay, 30 felt like the floor, especially when you knew Keenan Allen was hurt, Mike Williams was hurt. It was like, okay, they might incorporate him into the pass game. I was expecting 30 minimum, so I feel like Jeffrey's already chasing those 10 points. The problem with Ridley right now is now he's got to go up against Carlton Davis, which I thought Carlton Davis was going to be on Julio all week, which would have freed up Ridley. And we made fun of Carlton Davis because the week before, like Tyreek Hill went off.
He destroyed him.
He shut down Thielen, and it's what saved me. Like, the Vikings couldn't throw on Carlton Davis last week. So, like, there's something to him. He usually can shut people down. So I just don't know if he really chases people, whatnot, if he's going to be on Gage or whoever they throw out there. But if he's on Ridley, like, that hurts Ridley. Like, I was hoping that it was going to be more the Julio side than the Ridley side. But it's going to be close enough. I mean, my side, I think Ian is the favorite. Like, I'm pulling for Jeffrey. I was rooting for Jeffrey. I thought he needed more out of Eckler. It's going to be close enough that it's going to come down to Juju and Deontay, but it's not going to be close enough to where it's like, okay, one or the other just needs to win by 5 or 10. I think Jeffrey now needs a Juju big game, and he needs Deontay to kind of struggle. The other big piece for Jeffrey is going to be, he talked about it early, Dalvin Cook's got to go for a 40 at least. He needs to go for 125 yards.
You got to wear the booby jersey for sure.
I got to pull out all the magic. I got Joe Boo. I'm pulling some Baker rum in for Joe Boo. I got all my trinkets and all the cards all set up. I got my shrine. I got candles lit. I'm going to burn some sage over a Laurelhurst. And
well, all the talk, too, right now this week is the Eagles with Hurts and, like, how well they play. But it actually kills Jeffrey because Jeffrey's got 2 Eagles pass catchers. I mean, Goddard and Rager were 2 guys that, like, 3 weeks ago, he assumed he'd be playing at this point in the year. And it's like, you can't play those guys. I mean, you got to play Goddard because you don't have a pivot. But Rager's out of the lineup, basically, because you just don't know what Hurts is going to do. And Hurts isn't throwing, so it hurts Goddard. I mean, Goddard's still going to be okay, but you feel like you've lost Goddard's, like, super upside of, like, okay, this guy might go get a 30. When Wentz was out there. Now you're just hoping for maybe a 20 out of him, which Ian can throw 2 tight ends that can match that out there against him.
No.
Well, you're maybe a week away from Kittle, so just advance, buddy.
Yeah, I know. I want to see Kittle next week.
Oh, I was very happy to see that.
Oh,
The
wow.
main thing
Would that be the first brother matchup? That'd be some Karl shit epicness right there.
Now that's what we're hoping. It's probably going to happen in the Battle for Bucks matchup, but we're going to get it, I think, one way or another.
That would be amazing. The brother matchup. I'd take that.
Our brother matchup is me and Jeffrey have been building for the brother matchup championship since we started the SKFL. We said that was the dream. So.
Rob's gonna end up putting it on DraftKings somehow, and the whole nation's gonna be betting on it.
There's a path for Jeffrey. He's in trouble. But yeah, I've got both Tigers as the underdogs right now on paper. I feel pretty good about what I need to have happen. Now it's just whether or not it does.
Sit back and watch the games.
That's why we play the games.
It's going to be sad that it's going to end here, man.
Stay healthy. I mean, like, there's nothing worse. Like, it's one thing if your guy goes out there and he throws up a 3, but when that guy goes out there and he gets hurt in the first half and then he throws up a 0, I mean, that was Parker. That was Alex Smith. Like, there's
that's deflating.
You don't want that in the play. I mean, you don't want that in. Like, yeah, we talk about injuries. You can plan and you can make, losing Kittle, I can put Goddard in there, but like you just cannot. It was like when Yusuf lost Odell on the first play of a game. Those types of injuries.
Yeah.
Ian had it happen with Frank Gore, and then he had to go watch Ty Johnson run for 110 yards.
And twice with Deontay earlier in the year.
It's just the worst. I mean, that's the thing that ruins your season. Like one bad loss like that. So yeah, I mean, that's what we always say when the season starts and all that stuff. We always just say, that's like break a leg. It's just stay healthy kind of thing. You want to win with a guy. I mean, if a guy puts up a 3 because he just been game planned out or whatever, it's one thing. But yeah, you don't want to ever see an injury in the game.
Yep. All right. So it sounds like already our favorite here. I'll take that. And AJ.
Will you take it? Because last week we said you weren't the favorite.
Actually, that's true. I go into every game freaked out, so it makes no difference to me.
You don't want to be the favorite. You want to be the underdog. Just say it.
I mean, listen, let me just say this. Fantasy football is funny. Like, last year, my team, I scored like the most points that anyone ever scored. Like I was putting up huge numbers, but every week I was freaked out, worried. It doesn't change. So whether you're like there or like down low, it feels all.
And that's
you only knew how we felt when we played you. Then you wouldn't be.
Well, and that's what makes the Karl, and that's where the whole I get shit because of people in the league think I'm rallying to kick anybody. For the record, there's only been one person kicked out of the league, and that was because he couldn't attend drafts. Nobody wants anybody that's in the league right now out of the league. Other owners rallied to get Gist out of the league. Gist was a fine owner. The thing is, if you're winning a division, like there's no excuse not to own that and talk shit and be involved. So this whole idea that the Karl is pushing to get owners out of the league. I mean, it just shows that they're, sensitive to fantasy football and talking
or
shit.
They're
like
nobody of the Karl.
Nobody is criticizing your knowledge. I mean, Kenny got shit for the Gronk pick, but there's a world where that somewhat made sense, right? Like you could have picked, Darren Waller should have gone in the second. And so nobody is sitting there criticizing anybody's knowledge. Nobody's sitting there saying that, we know more. Our teams are. It's just it means more for us, and that's what makes the Karl.
It comes down to stats. Guess what? The numbers don't lie. It's doing
10 straight championships.
It's a machine that's doing it on its own at this point. There's no stopping this. And to Casey, real quick. You guys never know, this might be the last year of the Karl, depending on what shakes up.
Yeah, if we would still keep the Karl, we'd probably keep the Pinella, and then the Knox would disband into the two of us. So, we'd figure we would still keep the Karl and the Pinella.
We only take winners, all right? So we'll put that out there.
Draws to figure out.
We had one of who was in the 06 final. That 1 year where
I think Wade was an original Karl, and I think Cappers was an original Karl.
I know. I was in the Knox and Ian was in the Pinella, and then when we left those, the divisions just went to shit.
Wade and Cappers would be pretty strong to add to the Carl.
Yeah, I know. Give me
Wade wants no part of the Carl. I know that.
Give me Rockford and Lowe's.
I would love to be able to play Rob twice a year.
Somehow, like somebody better figure out how to get a title for Cockford with his points totals.
I know.
I'm so proud of. I've never seen anyone make a bigger issue about.
I totally picture like his garage being some beautiful mind spread of algorithms of like how he can defend the Pinella based on wins in November versus the Carl.
I see him like
Rob
redoing.
Rob still counts his Yahoo ring as an SKFL.
Yeah, he does. I actually
Exactly.
see him like doing some kind of BCS algorithm, like counting his points.
So
his
in case you're
wins,
just tuning in, this is
power
the
ranking.
we've got our second win now. The second part of the circle jerk is starting at the end of the There they are.
There it is. All right, 4 horsemen. Guys, we're going to do it. I'll see one of the two of you. We're going to have an all-Carl championship.
We want an all-Carl championship. We want a Tager Brother championship for sure, but let's see an
That's
all-Carl
what we want,
championship.
exactly.
And if it doesn't happen,
almost like
then
makes sense for a Tager Brother championship.
whatever happens in week 15, let's just all agree we want Ian to lose in 16.
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly.
I'll tell you this: Jeff takes it.
I
We're
don't
gonna have
know,
to go
though,
jacket shopping.
If J-Tags takes the championship, I'm looking the 4 of us trips to Canton and Mark.
All right.
There we go.
I like that.
There we go. There we go. Okay, so I got rooting interest even more so. I will say an Ian AJ championship would be tough, man.
Ooh, that would be amazing.
I honestly think like any two that end up coming out from each of these games, it's gonna be tough. Like I see a legit like strong 4 to finish this.
Well, AJ's young enough that he doesn't understand the mystique of the IAC franchise. Like nobody wants to see IAC in December.
No,
so, like,
I've
Jeffrey and
warned
Ian know
enough
it.
people about IAC. I'm like, listen, man, don't get him started. Just let him live off his own vibe. Like, if you guys are just feeding that, don't do it. And it's like, now you're gonna go and hunt. I'm sure you've made some phone calls to some of these players. You know, it gets dangerous.
Well, that's the beauty to me of like this whole little bickering feud is it's the first time really. Dude, like AJ,
he dropped off cookies to his house.
Well, and it's like it all started with the dog comment and all, but it's like not only the Casey and AJ beef, but like, you know, the NWO versus like me.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's the first time in years that like Musa and AJ have kind of gone out on a limb and made themselves vulnerable where like AJ finally now is invested, and if he loses this semifinal, he can't risk similar to how Casey can't risk losing this to AJ because you'll never hear the end of it. AJ has finally put his like, you know, money where his mouth is. Correct. Absolutely. And he's like, if AJ loses this with as strong of a team as he has, it's gonna sting because he's like finally now proving that he will talk shit and
you know what? The Carl needed this. We needed opposition. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. The Carl isn't the Carl without somebody stepping up and
now you have like I think Lowe's changed his name to NWO.
Guys, it's the South Kentral Football League, not the South Carl Football League. Like, we need some of these guys to come in. So like I applaud you guys.
But it was the Carl is super organic. It's doing it on its own. There's no like none of us have planned. Hey, let me help you out with this. Like it's a battle zone of 4 guys like just like with each other. Let alone now. Oh, like it's on it. Like you said, it's kind of a relief when you're done with those.
It just rolls all downhill at week 4. It's like, okay, here's a win. Maybe I lose this one, and it's like it just is. You're expecting 5 wins once you get out the division. So it's like I just got to find a way to win 3 games in the division because I'm winning 5 against the rest of the league.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Good
Great.
stuff.
All
All
right,
right,
Yeah.
guys.
All right. Good
Any,
luck, everybody. Yeah.
I don't know
thanks.
what the score of the USC Oregon game is, but let's go fight on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oregon's winning.
Shit.